School Committee Chair Chris Brezski spoke with Newton News correspondent Spenser Walsh about how the school's budget works.
After weeks of deliberations about next year's Newton Public Schools budget, School Committee Chair Christopher Brezski took New TV through the complex yet critical process, starting with a recap of what's happened so far.
Back in January, the mayor presented to the school committee and Dr. Nolan and the administration what her proposed appropriation to the schools would be. At that point in time, Dr. Nolan was still finalizing the internal NPS budget to determine what our needs were. And that was really a direct charge that I would say a consensus of the school committee had given her, that the starting point for our budget should be, what do our students and staff need to deliver the services that our kids require and that our families expect. And so that process was still ongoing. We continued moving forward. We, being the administration and NPS, continued moving forward to create the budget that we believed would serve the interests of our kids. And Dr. Nolan ultimately proposed a budget that was $4.5 million in excess of what the mayor appropriated. And that budget really reflects just, what are we providing for our kids now? And can we provide that same level of services next year without any real meaningful program expansion or anything of that sort? And so therefore it's sort of termed a level services budget. Where we are right now is we still have a deficit, and we've narrowed that somewhat. The city has indicated a willingness to use some free cash to bridge some of that gap. We have made some more aggressive assumptions, but we still remain $2.2 million apart from funding that budget that Dr. Nolan presented us, and that the school committee ultimately did approve with a couple amendments.
The school committee approved Superintendent Nolan's $296 million Level Services Plus budget by a 6-3 vote on April 2nd. Next, Brezski explained the source of the remaining $2.2 million gap between the budget the school committee approved and the funds currently available to them, and shared how he plans to work with Mayor Ruth Ann Fuller to close it.
The $2.2 million unfunded amount represents the budget that the school committee passed, minus the city's appropriation, minus the amount that we are being appropriated from our education stabilization fund, and minus $1.17 million of free cash that the mayor has indicated a willingness to provide to us and therefore supplement our operating budget. In terms of the free cash, the city currently has $13 million of free cash, which is effectively just the excess of city revenues over city expenses. We've seen in recent years that the city has generated free cash amounts in excess of what it typically will carry on the balance sheet, so to speak. That $13 million has been on the books for the past year. It is free cash from the year ended June 30th, 2024. In talking to the city comptroller, his expectation is there will be another $18 to $19 million of free cash that will be generated through the year ending June 30th, 2025. So once that amount gets certified, we're talking about $31 to $32 million of cash.
Now, Brezski is requesting the mayor go beyond the $1.17 million in free cash the mayor has already promised the schools and provide an additional $2.2 million of free cash, enabling the district to fully fund their Level Services Plus budget.
We're effectively asking that the city doesn't just allocate that $1.17 million, but an additional $2.2 million to close that gap. Now, the mayor has indicated a willingness to give us an incremental $2.5 million, but that amount she will not give the school committee the authority to determine where that amount goes. that will go to facilities projects of her choosing. The money is very clearly there. It's a matter of who gets to choose where that money goes. As it exists right now, the mayor is choosing where that goes, and not her plus the 8 other elected members of the school committee whose statutory authority it is to determine the allocation of funding provided to NPS.
Brezski told New TV he formally requested Mayor Fuller allocate the $2.5 million in free cash to, quote, the Newton Public Schools in a manner in which the school committee would determine the highest and best use for the funds, but said he hadn't heard back from City Hall.
So I have not heard back from her. It's not the first time we've made that request, so I presume the answer will be the same. We will still continue to try to work towards some solution that provides a full funding of the budget the school committee approved, and we will seek any opportunity for the city council to have a role in that process. All we're asking is the 2.5 million she has slated for facilities of her choosing, facilities projects of her choosing, allocate that money to NPS in such a way that the school committee can do its job and determine what is the best use for that money. If it's facilities, we'll put it towards facilities. If it's operations or personnel, we'll put it towards that.
Brezski also provided a message to families worried about potential cuts.
There's been communications of, what would the impact be if we do not get the funding and we are in some way forced to live with the amount of funding that the mayor has indicated to this point. Those are, consequences that I think no one wants. I think, we will still obviously, do our very best to provide everything necessary for the students of NPS. But before we get there, we are going to do everything we can to find that funding. If we are not able to utilize that $2.5 million and we can't find any other source of funding for the $2.2 million, it's a little uncertain what the path forward is from a legal perspective. Needless to say, at some point, we wouldn't have money. And so that would, at some point, lead to some of the cuts that folks have heard about. And that's the outcome we're all trying to avoid right now.
Despite the roadblocks, Brezski remained optimistic.
Do you anticipate, since the budget has approved, that you will eventually work out some sort of accommodation with the mayor to avoid these cuts?
I hope so. We're trying.